Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Develop Executive Presence for Introverted Leaders. Whilst I'm waiting for people to come online, as always, just please let me know which part of the world you are joining me from today, and just share in the chat which part of the world you're joining me from. I'll wait a few seconds or for more people to come online. I can't actually see who is online. I'm streaming on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So if you're online, just let me know in the comments which part of the world you're joining me from today, and I will get started once I know that there are people here. Just type in the comments where you're joining me from today. And so whilst I'm waiting, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Carol Stewart. I'm an executive career leadership coach, speaker trainer, and author. I'm the founder of the Bounding Solutions and author of the book Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. And I coach leaders to lead with confidence, influence, and impact so that they overcome all the internal barriers, as in the mindset barriers, the self-doubt, imposter syndrome, as well as the external barriers and navigating those external barriers as well. So hello from Staffordshire, hello from Ohio. Great to have you online. So the topic today is how to develop your executive presence for introverted leaders. And I have a saying that goes that you don't need to be loud to stand out as a leader, but you do need to have presence. So what is executive presence? Hello from London, Amateo. Executive presence is all about the way that you show up, the way that you are perceived, how other people perceive you, and the impact that you make. And it includes gravitas, i.e. being able to exude confidence, being able to act decisively, showing integrity, exhibiting emotional intelligence, and having a credible reputation and being able to project your vision. And it includes the way that you communicate and how you speak confidently, how you are able to command the room. And you need to be able to read your audience as well so that you can identify how well you and your message are being received and being able to act decisively. And it's also about how you appear as well. So it includes your appearance, your body language, all of that goes into it. And so what I'm going to be covering today is why it's important for introverted leaders in particular, what it looks like, and I'll be sharing some techniques that you can apply to develop yours. And so by the end of this live, hopefully you'll be able to apply some techniques to develop your executive presence. And a lot of it all depends on your mindset and what you think and believe about yourself, the situations that you're in and the different environments that you are in. And so at the end, I will share details of a 3 live 5-day mind cleanse challenge that I'll be doing next month. So those of you who want to work on developing that mindset and shifting that mindset. So why is executive presence important for introverted leaders? And please share in the chat why you think it is important. Why is it important for introverted leaders? And it's important for all leaders, but because the focus today is introverted leaders, why do you think it is important for introverted leaders? And please share your thoughts in the chat, in the comments, should I say. And whilst I'm waiting for them to come through, because I know there's often a delay between people typing in their comments and them coming through, I will go on. And so for introverted leaders in particular, executive presence is important because as someone who is introverted, you may naturally lean towards a a quiet or more reserved communication style. And there's a lot of misconceptions around introversion. A lot of people misunderstand introversion, and they may not necessarily think that you can command the room, that you have that confidence or that you have that authority to be a leader. And developing executive presence allows introverted leaders to effectively assert their authority and communicate your ideas persuasively and inspire confidence in your teams, in stakeholders and others that you lead, so that they see you as that leader, that person that they can trust, that person that they can depend on, that person whose vision that they will want to follow. And Emma has made a great statement here. We need introverted leaders as they bring different skills to extroverted leaders. And that is very, very true. And it also helps you to be seen as credible, capable leaders who can lead effectively and confidently, even if you're not the most extroverted in the room or the most outgoing person in the room. And so, you know, people often mistakenly think that, you know, you have to be extroverted in order to have presence or to be a great leader, but that is not true. I've got another comment here from Jessica. Our communication style is often misunderstood and we are overlooked because we are not the loudest. And yes, that is so true. And that's sort of, you know, my quote that I said about you don't have to be loud to be a leader, but you do need to have presence, because there are those misconceptions and we are often misunderstood. And as you rightly say, Jessica, overlooked. So what does it look like? What does executive presence look like in an introverted leader? And so when you think of introverted leaders that have a good presence, who comes to mind? If you think of those in the public eye, who comes to mind? Anyone in particular that you can think of that you can think, yes, that person is an introverted leader and they have a great presence? And just type in the comments who you think is a leader, that a great leader that has a really good presence. And it's often by identifying with leaders who inspire us, who have those great qualities that we can learn from. And it's not to copy them, but it's just to look at, well, what are the behaviors that they're exhibiting that we can learn from, and how can we then apply that learning to ourselves, that in terms of how we can do it in our own way. So it's not to copy other people, it's to what you can learn from them in terms of the behaviors that are getting the results that that are needed. And so when I think of someone who has a good presence, Barack Obama, the former president of the US, comes to mind. I think he was very good at commanding the room with his presence. He used pauses a lot in order to give reflecting time, as well as just to ground and center himself. And that can be quite impactful in a room, in a meeting where, you know, there's lots going on. Somebody who is speaking, but they're exuding presence and they're utilizing those behaviors that can enable people to want to sit up and listen. So do share who you think of, who you can think of, who is an introverted leader who has a great presence, whether it's someone in the public eye or whether it's somebody that you know personally as well. And so what does it look like in an introverted leader? And what are your thoughts on what it looks like in an introverted leader? So I've got another comment here from Baconla. We need introverted leaders because they are reflective, creative, and awesome decision makers. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So here are some things that I sort of think that when it comes to what it looks like in an introverted leader. So being thoughtful with the communication. They're typically known as being able to express our ideas clearly and thoughtfully. Often we prefer depth over breadth in our communication style. So many introverted people don't like making small talk. We prefer the quality rather than quantity. We prefer depth over breadth. Active listening. Oh, Jessica said yes, he's on my list. She's got Barack Obama on her list. Yes, I think he's really good. He has a really great presence, and as someone who's introverted. Active listening. Introverts are well known as being good listeners, and by actively listening, you demonstrate a genuine interest in other people's perspectives, and that helps in developing and building trust, and developing rapport with your teams, with your peers, with your stakeholders. Strategic thinking is another. Introverted people are known for showcasing strong analytical skills and strategic vision, and providing thoughtful insights and solutions to complex problems. A calm confidence. Someone once told me when I was a leader that I was like the calm in the storm. Because we typically, I mean, this I don't want to sort of put everybody into a box here, but we typically are not known for having a rage in public, and we're known for being calm when we're sort of in a public arena, and we're known for projecting a calm and composed demeanor even in high pressure situations, and that can instill a sense of stability and confidence in your leadership style. And sometimes that calm confidence can be misconstrued as or misunderstood, as Jessica mentioned previously, because I remember when I was working as a leader, when I was employed as a leader before starting my coaching business, and one of my colleagues made a complaint to my manager that I didn't care. We were going through a particular challenging time, and performance was taking a hit. But thankfully, my manager knew me well, and she knew that that was further from the truth, that I was very passionate about my teams, about my work, about my group, and that it was that quiet calm, that I wasn't throwing my toys out of the pram and getting hysterical or anything like that. And that helps to instill that sense of stability. Authenticity. If you're sort of being aligned to who you are as an introverted leader, then you will lead with authenticity and stay true to your values and principle, which earns you respect and admiration from your team members. Oh, it looks like Jessica's having issues with the audio and it keeps buffering. Is anyone else having that problem? If so, please let me know. And empowering others. Introverted leaders have been shown to be able to empower their teams, but there's research that shows that when it comes to leading dynamic teams, introverted leaders are actually better, because they allow people to develop their ideas and to run with their ideas, because they don't necessarily want to be in the spotlight themselves. Oh, it looks like it might be your end, Jessica, with the audio issues. And so those are some of the things that I think are present in introverted leaders who exude presence. And overall, I would say that executive presence in introverted leaders is characterized by a combination of quiet confidence, strategic thinking, and genuine connection with others. So how do you develop your presence? So what I would say, I'm going to share 3 things that you can do to develop your presence. And that is to assert yourself with confidence. So be clear and decisive in your communication, and be assertive. And there's a great analogy that I like that's used to describe assertiveness, that those of you who have been on my lives before or any of my webinars will have heard me make reference to. And it comes from a clinical psychologist called Randy or Robert Paterson. And he describes it, likens it to a stage, and he says that people who are passive are sat in the audience and they let everybody onto the stage but themselves. And I'm kind of paraphrasing it here. I'm not quoting it word for word. So they're in the audience and letting everybody else on the stage apart from themselves. People who are aggressive, they want the stage for themselves and they're throwing everybody else off the stage. But people who are assertive recognize that there is room for everyone on the stage. So they're on the stage and other people are on the stage as well. And so when I sort of say to people about, you know, they're in situations where they need to be assertive and they're not necessarily being assertive, it's just to ask themselves, are you on the stage? Are you off the stage, sat in the audience and letting everybody else on? Are you on the stage pushing everybody else off? Or are you on the stage and recognizing that there's room for everybody on the stage? So think about how assertive you are when you communicate with others, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's in a conversation. Do you stand your ground with an air of confidence, or do you falter and become apologetic? Or do you act like a raging bull, not letting anyone else get a word in? And so communicate confidently, be confident in your communication. So a lot of that requires you to have done preparation. Oftentimes I find with introverted leaders, the challenge for them comes when they've not necessarily prepared themselves well enough, or whether it's a talk, whether it's a meeting, so that they are not able to communicate confidently. And avoid apologetic language. And so when I talk about apologetic language, I mean saying things like, oh, I'm sorry, but, or I just want to say, be assertive in your language. And not even just the words that you speak, but also in your body language as well. And let your voice be heard. If you want to have a presence and be influential, your voice needs to be heard. So let your voice be heard. And when other people try to speak over you, be assertive in letting them know that you've not finished speaking yet. And that leads me on to developing your influence. So develop your influence and be seen as a leader of influence. And you can do this by listening well. And I've talked about listening earlier. So listening well, people like to feel that they are listened to. Oftentimes we listen, but we don't hear. And so people try and finish someone's sentence or interrupt them, but listen, actively listen well to what people are saying. Develop a rapport with people. And in order to develop a rapport, finding that common ground with people can help make people know that you are listening to, be empathetic to them, and be aware of your body language. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is being aware of your body language. And our body language can say a lot. Those non-verbal communications that we present can say a lot about whether we are commanding the room, whether we are present, whether we have that presence. So be mindful of your body language. Just like in apologetic language that we speak verbally, we can display apologetic language in our bodies. And when I say that, that's things like shrinking in your seat as if you're just wanting the ground to swallow you up. So it's sitting up straight, confidently, expanding your body, being present and not letting your mind wander and worry and ruminate, which can so easily happen when you are in meetings or in situations where you need to demonstrate that you have that presence, that you have that ability to command the room, get people to listen to what you're saying and buying into your vision, what it is that your ideas or what it is that you want to share. And be aware of other people's body language as well. So when you're speaking, when you're present with other people, being aware of their body language, you can learn a lot from their body language, whether they are sitting engaged with what you have to say or whether they are distracted or their mind is elsewhere. And so when you notice that you've lost someone, And when I say lost someone, that they switched off to what you're saying, think about what you can do to just bring them back. And it could be just a shift in what you're saying. It could be asking a question. It could be changing your tone of voice as well. So think about what you can do just to bring them back to listen to what you're saying. So that's it. And just to wrap up, what I've talked about is why executive presence is important for introverted leaders and what it looks like in an introverted leader. And I've shared some techniques for you to develop your presence. So hopefully you'll be able to apply what I've shared and develop your executive presence. And if you have any questions, then please share in the chat. I will respond to any questions that you share in the chat. Or if you've got any thoughts or any experiences that you want to share, do share them in the comments, please. And whilst we're waiting for some questions or comments to come through, I'll just tell you a little bit about my 5-day mind cleanse. And so the 5-day mind cleanse is a free challenge, which I currently have it running all the time, but it's one that is done by yourself. It's one that you do on your own. But next month, I'm going to be doing it live, so that there will be live sessions, and we'll be taking you. I will be taking you through it live, and you will be able to ask me questions. You will be able to connect with other people that are doing the challenge as well, to provide a support network and an accountability network as well. And if that's something that you're interested in, then I will type the link in the comments. And also, if you I'll put it in the comments after as well. So I'll just grab the link, and do put your questions through. So if you go to my website, aboundingsolutions.com, and go to the free resources, you'll find it in there. Right, so I've got a statement here from Jessica. I always feel like people with loud voices want to silence those of us with a quieter voice. And that is something that I see a lot as well. So what do you think can be done about that? And anybody that's online, please share what your thoughts are. What do you think that can be done about that? And I'll share what I think can be done about that as well. So it's about asserting yourself when those loud voices try to silence you. And so if you find that people are interrupting you, then it's about just letting them know, as I mentioned, being assertive and letting them know that you haven't finished speaking yet, that you've not finished speaking. And once you finish speaking, then you'll gladly listen to what they have to say. Or if it's the case of that they're all speaking and you're not able to get a word in edgeways, then again, it's about asserting yourself. And it could be that you raise your voice so that you can be heard. And I don't mean shouting, or I don't mean sort of being aggressive, but just raising your voice, maybe speaking a bit louder like that. Or if you have a high pitched voice, lowering your tone. If you have a low tone, maybe raising it. Or if you're at a meeting, at a table, it could be that you put your hands on the table and you lean slightly forward so that people sort of see that you have something to say. So got a great question here from Bookie. How can we assert ourselves without being rude? So again, it's about, if you think about what the analogy that I used about the stage, and I'll put your question back on the screen. If you think about the analogy that I used about being on the stage, it's about having what's called an adult to adult conversation. So recognize where the person is coming from in terms of, their concerns, what may be going on for them. And it's about communicating what you have to say firmly and confidently and decisively. And it's acknowledging, if they've got something that they're not happy about or they disagree with. It's acknowledging their point of view, but it's also about you holding your ground and communicating what you have to say in a articulate way, in a way that is confident and assertive. So it's not being rude to them. It's understanding that they may have a different perspective or they may want something different, but it's being clear, being decisive about what it is that you want to say. So we've got another question from another great coach, someone who also works with introverted leaders, Deborah. Hi, Deborah, great to have you online. And she says, assertiveness can be developed if you are not naturally inclined. And yes, that is so true. Some people are naturally assertive, but with other people, it's a case of developing it. So we've got a comment here from Rejoice, who says, sometimes it helps to ask them to pause and tell them you will come back to the point later. Making them pause puts a break, and usually they have nothing else to say after. That's another great comment. So thank you for sharing that, Rejoice. And so Jessica has got a question here where she says, how can it be developed? So, I mean, I haven't got time to go into that now. I do have a online course called Unleash, which shows you how to develop your assertiveness as well, how to be, and if you go to aboundingsolutions.com, you can find it under the services. And I've also got, if you go to my Quietly Visible podcast and also my Quietly Visible newsletter here on LinkedIn, then there are lots of articles that I've written about assertiveness and how to develop it. And also on the podcast, I do talk about, there are episodes that talk about assertiveness there. So those are some free resources, or if you want something a bit more deeper, then if you do sign up for my Unleash online course. So thank you for that. Anything else before I go? Let me see, make sure that I've not missed anybody's questions. Right, so thank you, and good evening to you as well, Abhishek, and thank you for joining. So if no one's got any further questions or comments or insights that you want to share, I'm going to just ask you one final question, and that is, what will you do differently going forward so that you are exuding presence and commanding the room? So please share what you're going to do differently, because there's no point coming on these lives and doing all the self-development things without actually applying it to yourself. And you can apply these things to yourself by just reflecting on what it is that you need to do differently so that you can apply what you're being taught. As Jessica Deborah has said, it helps to practice and prepare. And she says, thank you, Carol, for all the products you have available to help with this. Thanks for that, Deborah. And Bukonia asks, as a leader, how do you handle unwilling subordinates? So again, it's about being assertive with them and giving them constructive feedback and having conversations with them. If they're not willing to go along with what is needed, it's about listening to them and understanding why it is that they are unwilling. And then it's about, once you understand what it is, because there may be something that they don't understand, they don't agree with, it's about being influential and listening, empathizing with them, telling them the benefit of why it is that you are asking them to do whatever it is that you're doing, and letting them finding out whether there's any areas of development there, if they need any support in understanding or developing in a particular way. And if you provided them with that and they are still unwilling, and it's like you want a team member or somebody that you manage, and then it may be the case that you may have to deal with that according to your HR policies about people who are not performing or who are not are not performing. That I would say have that conversation with them, give them constructive feedback that is very specific, that is relevant and that is timely, and be assertive and let them know what is expected of them, but make sure that you listen and you understand what is going on for them as well. I hope that helps, and please do let me know if it does. So we've got Rejoice, my biggest takeaway, and listening better. Thank you for that. Jessica says, one tip I use in meetings to show confidence and assertiveness is to take up physical presence. And that is a good one. And as I mentioned about the body language and not sort of shrinking into your seat because you want the ground to swallow you up, but taking up that physical presence, expanding your body. So if you look at me now, I'm sort of like in an expansive position. And when I say expansive, that's not expensive but expansive. Whereas if you sort of sit and shrink back, that you don't have that presence. So yes, taking up that physical presence. And I don't know whether you've heard of power poses, but that's a great way to go into a room, into a meeting before you go in and just doing a power pose. Amy Cuddy has got a great video TED talk about power poses. So go and watch that if you want to understand a bit more about how you can take up that physical presence, how you can sort of walk into a room feeling that you have that presence. And we've got Deborah, I plan to attend more decisive meetings and be consistent. Great, and thank you for sharing that. So thank you everybody for coming online, and if you want to join my 5-day mind cleanse, then I will share the link here, and I will edit the blurb for this live as well and put it there as well. And so next month's live, I probably won't do a live next month because I'll be doing the 5-day mind cleanse live. So until the next time, bye. Thank you for coming online, and goodbye. I'm conscious that I've gone 5 minutes over, that I hope that you found it useful. So I'll just, Deborah says that she loves power poses. Thank you. Yes, do check out Amy Cuddy's TED talk, everyone. And Baconla says, biggest takeaway, giving constructive feedback and active listening. Thank you very much. And so I will see you all again soon. Bye.